And good evening, everybody. Meteorologist Sawyer Wells here once again. It is Saturday, January 13th. I'm making this video about 7:30 p.m. And there's still, of course, a lot going on across the United States in terms of weather. Live look right now. I'll try to make this a quick video, but this is a look right now from the GOES East satellite. Again, just like the last video, we're looking at the mid-level water vapor imagery. And you can see a couple things going on here. There's this digging trough that really just kind of entrenched across the eastern three-quarters of the country. You've got a little upper level low just moving into Oregon. And what I think is really cool about this view is well, I guess there's a couple things. You're seeing the big storm system that impacted the Northeast and also places up near the Great Lakes over into Iowa. And they're still dealing with blizzard warnings up there. We'll show those in just a second. But if you look really closely, we talked last video about how we'd have the initial boundary of cold air move on in, and then behind it today, earlier this morning, at least here in Oklahoma, we'd have a secondary front kind of push on through that would be really that Arctic air that would bring those wind chills down to the negatives. If you look really closely in central Texas, you can see it right here, these little ripples that are moving through. Basically, earlier I think it was Abilene, and then back over towards, this would be towards Houston, I believe. Yeah, there is just it's just a pretty cool little feature that you can see here. So if we take a look across the country, of course, the Weather Service offices, yep, they're definitely being kept busy right now. See all these wind chill warnings from up at the U.S.-Canada border down into Oklahoma. You have winter weather advisories all the way down to basically San Antonio. And then almost the entire state of Arkansas is under a winter storm warning because of the amount of snow that they're going to pick up. And you have winter storm watches to the east of that. Those will either be upgraded to a winter storm warning or slightly downgraded to a winter weather advisory. That's kind of how it goes. And then you still have, of course, the blizzard warnings in southeastern South Dakota, Iowa, also parts of Minnesota, and then a couple counties in far northeastern Nebraska. That has just been a powerful storm, dumping a lot of snow. Saw a picture from yesterday up in Nebraska near the Omaha area, and driving conditions were just treacherous. So if we look across the Oklahoma right now, temperatures are cold. I mean, you kind of know that if you go outside. We got negatives out in the Panhandle, teens and lower teens to the south of Tulsa, and then from a line of about I-44 down towards Oklahoma City and then back towards Eric. That's where the 10-degree line is. If I back out here and look at the wind chills, you see a lot of negatives on there. It feels like negative 19 degrees up at May Ranch right now. You've got Buffalo out towards Slapout, again, near negative 20. And even the southeastern part of the state where they were a little warmer today. I call it warmer. They're in the 40s, maybe lower 50s. Feels like 26 in Broken Bow. We'll take a look across the entire country because it's just kind of amazing, really. In terms of percentages and the percentiles of these temperatures, yeah, there's a lot of people breaking records for record, what we call low highs. So the high of the day being the lowest it's ever been. But yeah, you got some negative 30s up in Wyoming. And then what's even crazier to me, of course, you know those wind chill warnings are up there really across most of the country. But you see we have negative 50, negative 55. And yesterday we had a negative 68, I believe it was, in either northeastern Montana or far northwestern North Dakota. So the winds were just powerful, and with a bunch of that radiative cooling and just how dry the air is, yeah, that led to some very dangerous conditions. And really, it's dangerous across most of the country because of how cold it feels. Remember, wind chill is something that is how it feels to us as humans. And so you have to be careful of that when you're talking about what it feels like to us and the frostbite time, or the time you can stay outside until you start experiencing frostbite. You're going to be looking at those wind chills. So in terms of the models, I know last time we talked, the European model and the GFS model were kind of butting heads a little bit. They've come into a better alignment really about 36 hours ago in terms of snowfall for us here in Oklahoma and to the southeast and really over to the east. But there's still quite a few uncertainties with this system. Dry air is just one of those things that really impacts snowfall amounts, when the snow actually starts hitting the ground versus being evaporated above the ground. And so we've really been seeing a lot of those snow totals kind of pulled back a little bit for us here in Oklahoma because of some dry air that we're going to have being entrained into the system, and that's already in place. So here is this morning's European model. And going forward, there's the snow chances. Really, Arkansas is going to probably get the brunt of this over the next 24 hours, 24 to 36 hours. And then if you notice, too, there looks like there could be some freezing rain, sleet, and basically a little bit of an ice storm happening in eastern Texas and northern Louisiana. So that's something that they're going to have to keep their eyes out for before that system kind of starts to eject off to the northeast. And then looks like it could bring a decent amount of snow for our friends up in the New England states. In terms of the GFS, it's been fairly similar. It tries to bring in a few more waves of snow and tends to have the snow a little bit heavier. Again, we're in the time period now where the higher resolution models are able to forecast this or put out some maps, so we'll look at those here in just a minute. But the GFS, as we go on throughout tomorrow and Monday, kind of has a little bit of a slower system and doesn't really start to eject this out into the New England states until later on Tuesday, early Wednesday morning, really. Also still keeps that cold air here. I mean, that cold air is not going anywhere, so, just get ready. Here's the NAM, the North American model, and we have a new run that is just now starting, so we'll take a look at this afternoon's run. And as we go forward, notice it looks a little bit nice here, but it only goes out to 60 hours. It brings just kind of a quick little burst of some snow across Oklahoma. And again, I think we're going to have more than this in terms of coverage, but it's going to be very, very light in a lot of areas. And so that goes over into Arkansas. And notice it has that kind of line of the rain, snow, or the freezing rain, sleet, and snow mix a little bit farther northward than the European and the GFS models do. And then this finally, of course, moves on out to the northeast and then kind of starts to get wrapped up. Out this far, again, I think we'll have a little bit better coverage, but that is kind of to be determined. Let's take a look at the HRRR. Now, this is the high resolution rapid refresh model. And so this is going to give us a little bit of a higher resolution than the NAM is, but it only goes out right now, at least at this evening's run, or this runs every hour, and it only goes out to 18 hours, but every 6 hours, that being, for us here in Oklahoma, 6 p.m., midnight, 6 a.m., and then noon. It goes out to, I believe it's 48 hours. I believe that. It goes out a couple days, really. So moving forward, there's the snowfall, starts to kind of move on into central Oklahoma later on tomorrow afternoon, and then it's kind of quickly out of here. But there's a couple of models that are still trying to bring in a few little kind of weaker waves. And there's a lot of these little weak wave interactions that the models are having a difficult time with. And it's kind of one of those things of we'll just have to kind of see what happens, really. All the dynamics going on with this system and all the little bitty, this is not one massive system, I should say. It's basically one large system with a bunch of smaller little instability waves in it. And so that's kind of what we're going to have to keep our eye on to see how those interact. Again, still looking like could have a decent amount of freezing rain down into northern Louisiana. I mean, it's still kind of weird to see freezing rain down into southern Texas. That's just not something you see very often. In terms of snowfall amount, it's actually the first time I'm viewing this one. Let's get a little bit of a closer look here, at least to Oklahoma. And it's going to be an internal model calculation in terms of the snowfall amount. So it doesn't tell me exactly what the ratio is, but I mean, you're not seeing very much here. 1 to 2, maybe some locations if you have a heavier band set up to about maybe 3 inches, maybe. That's why you have those winter weather advisories in effect versus winter storm warnings over into Arkansas. As far as the North American model goes for this afternoon, switch it over here to the snowfall totals. This is going to be a 10 to 1 ratio. And again, this is going to be a little bit of a drier snow. So we're talking 15, 20 to 1 is a better kind of approximation. So, multiply these numbers by about 50% or so. And you see again, maybe a couple inches across eastern Oklahoma. And this also goes to show you how quickly those models can change. You hear it every single event. And, this one is no exception here. A little disappointing. I love to see some higher snowfall totals, but again, that dry air is just kind of in our way. And I'll show you what I mean by the drier air. So last time, if you remember, we looked at these skew-T diagrams where we had plotted, or the models had plotted temperature and dew point with respect to height, so as you go up in the atmosphere. So we take a look at tomorrow, and this is valid for the morning hours, midday, morning. Notice temperatures, yes, can be cold. I mean, we're looking at temperatures that could be down near 0 degrees, but notice how far apart these two lines are, right? So you have the temperature, and then you have your dew point. And dew point is a measure of how much moisture you have in the atmosphere. When these two lines are touching, you're saturated at that part in the atmosphere. So as we're going throughout the day, notice they start to come closer and closer together, but here at the surface, it's not changing too much until the snow has already developed and is starting to almost move out, really. And at that point, that's when we expect that most of it will start to reach the ground pretty quickly, because we start to saturate the lower levels of the atmosphere. Before that, what's happening is the snow is up here, it's falling, and as it falls, it's evaporating and not reaching the ground. So we just kind of have to be, and we happen to be in the kind of perfect spot here across Oklahoma, where the system develops but moves off to the east before we can get that dry air to be a little bit more moist. So just something we'll have to see. Again, not looking too great. Like I said before, the weather service, at least here in eastern Oklahoma, I'll show you what they've kind of put on out here. So they got their snow timing, again, most likely be tomorrow afternoon to the evening hours for a good part of our area. And then if you look at, they have this decision support page, which is really quite cool. And these little chiclets here, and again, showing you a couple inches maybe. This was updated this afternoon, so not a huge snow event across Oklahoma. Again, the main story is going to be the wind chills. Really quickly here, we'll take a look at the wind chills and just zoom back on in here to, let's go to the south central U.S. So we'll have Oklahoma in there as well as some of the other states. That way you can get a little bit of a kind of widened out look. We should have it. There we go. Wind chills. So by tomorrow afternoon, it's not out of the realm possibility. It's very possible. I won't say 100%, but about 95% chance that we're going to have negative wind chills across most of Oklahoma. And then that will continue on into your Monday and maybe even into Tuesday before we finally start to moderate the temperatures and get this colder air out of here Wednesday into Thursday. So it'll be Wednesday or Thursday before we even get back above freezing or close to that. And so that's why we're talking about the wind chill is the main story with this. I've shown you before the ensemble members, and I can show you the temperatures again with those. So this is this afternoon's GFS ensemble. So again, talking about Wednesday before we get back above freezing, and we'll be in the teens, getting overnight lows near 0 or in the negatives depending on your location, of course. And then the European model is very similar. It tries to warm us up a little bit more on Wednesday with another little secondary front. We are watching for that. There are some indications we could have another little cold spell. I'm not going to say it's not going to be one like this, but a little bit of a cold spell move on through next weekend. Right now, precipitation chances, not really that great. Models really aren't picking up on too much, so we'll just, again, kind of have to wait and see with winter weather, especially here in the central part of the country. We're right on that boundary where some dry air can really just cut into our totals, or something can, develop really quickly and models finally catch a hold of it 24 hours before the event. So, of course, as always, and that's really all I have for today. So, make sure you stay tuned into the local stations for the latest updates, as well as the National Weather Service. If you don't have to get out in this frigid weather, don't. Remember to take your necessary precautions. You should already kind of be doing that a little bit. Keep the faucets at a trickle, a little bit more than a drip, but not a run. Open up the cabinets below so you can keep that warm air circulating. Bring the pets in. And if you have to take the pets out, if they have booties or anything, that's good because, again, it's cold outside, even on their paws, even if there's no snow. But other than that, thanks for joining me. I'll make this a quick video here. We'll get this on out. And if anything changes rapidly, I'll have another one. Or I'll see you next event. Have a good night.